Hello everyone, Mr. Stevens here with our next trigonometry lesson. This time we're going to be doing something very similar to what we did in the last lesson, but we're going to be looking at situations where the x is on the denominator of the fraction. Our process is going to be exactly the same though. We'll choose our trig ratio and write it down the information from the question. Then we'll rearrange so that x is by itself. This time that's going to look a little differently though, because the x will be on the bottom of that fraction. But once we've done that, same as before, we just plug everything into our calculator and get the answer. Got the checklist here. If you felt the checklist was helpful from the last one, write this one down too. It definitely won't hurt to have this in your notes to refer back to. If you want to write it down, pause it and write it down. All right. I'm going to answer this one for you. We've got adjacent and hypotenuse. So our SOHCAHTOA Torah tells us we need to use cos. I'm going to write down all the info that the question gives me. Cos 40 equals 12 over x. Now, here's where we have to employ a little bit of algebra again to get the x by itself. But just the same as with the last one, where once we recognize the pattern, we just apply the same pattern every time. We're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to show you the full solution, but I'm not going to require you to do this for every question. All right, we don't want the x on the bottom of the fraction, so we're going to get the x out from on the bottom by multiplying both sides by x. Now we've got x times cos 40 equals 12. Now I've got something times x. I want to get x on its own. I'm going to divide by that other thing. Remember, this cos 40 is just a number. We can treat it exactly like a number when we're doing this algebra. So that means x equals 12 over cos 40. Now, I want you to notice what has changed between this line and the first line. The only thing that's changed is the x and the cos 40 have changed places. Let me write both of these things next to each other. We started off with this. We ended up with this. Now, when you guys answer questions, including these next couple of examples that we do together, this is all the working out you need to do. I've showed you all of this just so you understand what's happening, but when we answer questions, this is fine. We've discovered that when we do the algebra, these two things trade places. So we're just going to do that every single time. When we see the x on the bottom of the fraction, we're just going to swap places with whatever the trig is. And now we just pop that into our calculator. 12 divided by cos 40. And that's going to say the answer, which is 15.6648 ... The answer to two decimal places is 15.66. All right, you guys can pick up your pen. And we'll go through this one together. I want you to write this one down with me. Take a second to just draw the triangle. Pause the video if you need to. We've got opposite. We've got hypotenuse. That means we're looking for sine. We write down all the information the question is giving to us. Sine 35 equals 5 over x. We see that our x is on the bottom of the fraction, so we know that the x and the sine just trade places. And now we put that into our calculator. And our calculator spits out the answer. And we round off to 2 decimal places. You guys are going to have some examples now. I want you to pause the video and have an attempt at all of these. That first one there is very similar to the one we just did together. All right, and there we have the solutions for those 3 examples. You'll notice each time we just swapped places with the x and the sine, cos, or tan. And then we've put it into our calculator, we've written down the answer, and then we rounded it off to 2 decimal places. And that's basically what our success criteria is. Write down the info from the question, flip it around so the x is by itself, put it into our calculator, get the answer. If you still have questions about that, or you have questions about any other work in the textbook, get in touch with your teacher. Otherwise, yeah, you guys can jump in, get started on your practice. Thanks, guys.